Sounds like my wife.
Get over here!
Yeah, Mike, you can go. It looks like Martin.
Be able to hear the people on the computer better.
What?
We got two on the computers better. So you'll be able to hear it better.
I'm happy.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll call the meeting to order Tuesday, April 21st at 6:02 p.m. Roll call of directors, please.
Barnes?
Here.
Bauman? Lewis? Gorman?
Here.
Hanson?
Here.
Hermany?
Here.
Kaiser?
Here.
Maple? Jess here?
Yeah, she's on that.
Yep.
Jess, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And Zebro?
Yes.
All present but Lewis.
Got it. Okay. Pledge allegiance. Pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving on to item 4, the approval of the agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Kelly and a second by Mike. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
The motion will carry. Item 5A, approval of the minutes from the regular Board of Education meeting, March 17th, 2020.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes for March 17th.
Okay. We have a motion by Kelly and a second by Peter. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion will carry. And then the special Board of Education meeting, March 24th, 2020.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes for March 24th.
Okay, we have a motion by Kelly. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second by Amy. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion will carry. Item C, the special Board of Education meeting, April 8th, 2020.
I'll make the motion to approve those special board meetings from April 8th.
Okay, we have a motion by Kelly. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second by Kevin. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion will carry. Item 6, the public forum. The public forum provides the public with the opportunity to ask questions about or address issues included on the school board meeting agenda. General operating rules of the public forum will be determined by the board president once the number of people wishing to speak is identified on the night of the meeting. Prior to addressing the board, please clearly state your name and address and share with the board what agenda item you are speaking to the board on. At this time, is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to the board? Yes, Bernie.
Mr. President, my name is Bernie Kramer from 2150 East State Highway 153 from my jail cell in Peplin. I want to just start off with a, the older you get, maybe a little screwier in the head you get. You got the termites probably got you half gone already. But I like to refer to Ronnie Reagan. I run a lot of trouble in life, but I go back to what he said: government is not the solution; it's the problem. So I mean, from my standpoint, the way I look at this so-called parking pool, and I listened to the public input from the 3 ladies, and it seemed like the thing didn't even belong to the school district at all. But that's okay too. We'll just have to move on. And then I went through the tour, that they were so gracious. They did such a wonderful job, but they never talked about the outside area. We sat down and Mr. Superintendent, he gave us a nice rundown on it with this community service thing. And the big thing was accessibility. So this plan is just an option at this point. No decision is made. Okay, no, that's okay. The next school board meeting, here it's on the agenda. But before I get off the line a little bit with that, he never talked about option 1 or option 2, and there's a difference. And you guys know what it is. But now I want to go to this dot thing. It's the craziest thing I ever seen in my life.
Been on the board for several years, so we had a a plaque in our Fab Lab put together for Mark, which I'll make sure he gets. So I'll text him and make sure that he gets that. He's done an excellent job on the school board, and he's a great community member.
12 years.
Yep, 12 years. Still working at the mill. Just a good guy. Good guy, did a great job serving on the school board and the larger community. So we'll thank him. I'll make sure to get over and talk to him.
Thank you. Item 8, the student board report. And that
Yep.
everybody has in their packet.
Yeah, that's in your packet. In short, obviously, with remote learning, the staff is doing an amazing job of outreach. We're doing the best we can with students. But several of the items on the regular agenda, whether it be an open or closed, will definitely affect all students directly. So it's a good board report. It's a good student board.
Item 9A, consent agenda, building committee consent agenda. Kelly?
Okay, we met tonight at a little bit about 5:36. And there's a few items I'll have Steve go through.
No, I mean, we don't
No,
have,
Steve isn't even here.
he's not here.
Oh, never mind.
Okay.
I should pay attention, yeah.
Yeah.
No, we went over, you have it in your package, so there's really nothing to inform you about or let you know.
There's some pictures in there that are
Yep.
very good.
Yep.
The pictures talk about some of the current work that's going on with the buildings and ground staff and our hourly staff, which have to do with deep cleaning rooms, and preparing for summer school. So there's quite a bit of very good work that way. There's also some pictures as it relates to the pool and the walls, the outside waiting pool, some issues, and he had some notes in there about that. So please take a look at that if you haven't already.
I like the new color in the hallway.
Yeah,
Yes.
actually,
Telling me.
I was up there today, and I'll have it in my superintendent's report. But our hourly staff are just doing an amazing job of helping in, continuing the painting after getting personal items ready for students. So they're up there actually today. I was up there checking on them, and it's looking great.
I had the colors.
Yeah, I like the colors are
Yes,
what you
and
see
they're
in
gonna
the
have,
other.
have it, throughout the whole, there's some whites that are different, he said they're gonna match all the leaves.
Yep.
So it's really gonna look bad.
It'll look like it's brand new.
Yes.
Yes.
It's gonna look very good.
Okay. Item 9B, personnel committee consent agenda.
Jessica was very gracious, asked me to lead the meeting. She's driving, or maybe now stopped, but wasn't able to be here tonight. Amy and I met, and Jessica was on the phone. We did meet. We got a report on the current job vacancies in the district. There's a finance clerk position that's vacant. They have Zoom interviews next week. A second shift custodian and the social worker position are both presently on hold. So those were for information only. The committee approved the hiring of Anna Strand as an 8th grade ELA teacher. This person will replace Marcia Kowalski. There is a savings in salary. And Anna is a long-term sub already in the district. The committee also approved the hiring of a middle school counselor, and Carrie Drevick has been hired. We approved the hiring of Carrie Drevick. 6 years of working in special ed in the Wausau School District. A big pool of applicants, 17 applicants, and the committee recommended the hiring of Carrie to that position. The committee approved the recommendation to hire Brianne Jeenan, a 3-year school teacher in Stevens Point, for the position of middle school emotional behavioral disorder teacher, EBD. And this is the person who is going to take the position of the retiring Todd Felch.
Correct.
He had a different position, but
Yep, he was a high
Yeah.
school teacher, so
Right.
we just reapportioned that to the middle school.
kind of a small pool, 5 applicants, but 3 interviews, and that was their recommendation. The committee approved the hiring of an early childhood 4K special ed teacher, Casey Negocian, and Casey has been in the district already. She's been here for 1.5 years on a 1-year contract, but because there's a high increase of special education students in the pre-K, early childhood 4K, this was a recommended hire, and this will be reviewed each year as the numbers change. So, committee approved recommending hiring her. The committee reviewed the hiring and approved the hiring of a first grade teacher, Lisa Workis. A big pool, 33 people applied for this
We were
position.
really excited about that.
It's first grade position. And this person, I commented, taking Linda Bistus's place. Linda Bistus was my now 30-year-old daughter's first grade teacher back then. So a good quality teacher retiring, big loss to the district, but I'm sure that this person will be doing a great job. We had a discussion, more of an informational packet on some of the safer at home orders, how it's affecting the district, because it's affecting personnel, questions of certain staff who've been asked to come in to work in the buildings, and they have needs of childcare at home, and how that is all affected. The executive orders of the governor were in the packet. That was for information only. There were no items on the additional resignations, retirements, or hires, or extracurricular hires list tonight.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Moving on to finance committee consent.
I would ask that we pull employee benefits from this. It's a multi-million-dollar decision. I think the board should vote in outside consent.
Okay.
But moving on, we approved our minutes from our last meeting. We also unanimously recommend approval of the Kidstown contract, which is the exact same as it was the previous year, with one exception or caveat, which was we're going to touch base with our insurance carrier to make sure that their coverages are appropriate for us, and as long as that's the case, to move forward with that contract. We discussed something we've all seen numerous times, which is listed as the updated 10-year construction plan projected. I'm sorry, let me back up. 4K contracts. We went through that. We've discussed that as a board as far as what we're paying per student to those organizations. We unanimously approved those contracts for the next school year. We then had a lengthy discussion about employee benefits. We'll get to that separately. In regards to the updated 10-year construction plan projected, we approved that, but part of my motion when we approved that was to change the title of it from, it sure comes across as this board is approving a plan to move forward with all those things, and really what they are is there are needs and projected costs, so to change it from a plan to a list of our needs, which is a living document of moves, but we moved through that and approved that unanimously. We discussed summer school curriculum needs, which is about a $27,000 purchase to improve the reading capabilities of our kids. We know that there's going to be some catch-up that's done, and hopefully summer school can address some of those needs. These are multiple year, going from kindergarten to 6th grade. Every other year they change in the curriculum, which is consistent with the model of how we're teaching during the school year. It kind of created a sole source situation, which is to stay within that program. This is what's available. My concern, and one thing we discussed, was the fact that what if we don't have summer school this summer? There's a lot of unknowns at this point in time, and legal challenges, and seeing what happens with the COVID-19 pandemic. The good news on this is that this has a 5 to 6 year shelf life for the school district. So it's not just a one and done type situation for these curriculum packets. These are paper books that'll be used by the teachers. So our committee unanimously approved the purchase of the summer school curriculum packets. And then it was discussion for us, not necessarily a decision in our committee regarding other post-employment benefit valuation. This is for the audit of our post-employment benefit which I can give you our fund, which is about $5 million right now. So that's a legal requirement that's done every 2 years. And Michelle's very comfortable with this company and had vetted different companies in the previous year for Marshfield. So we approved, we didn't approve that because it was just discussion, but we were updated on what the plans of the district are in regards to that.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Item D, Curriculum and Standards Committee Consent Agenda.
You and me. Yeah, you and me.
I can do it. We approved the minutes from the previous meeting, and then we really spent the entirety of the meeting discussing the three things below, which is the remote learning plan and the expectations that have been provided to our teachers and our staff, and what information has been shared with parents from the district in order to really work with those kids, and what that means. We discussed the difference between grading structures and a pass, no pass situation that we find ourselves in right now. There are still unknowns in regards to that, as far as what DPI is going to come out with and whether they set requirements or whether it's left open to the districts. One of the things we spent time on this about is really talking about how effective this is, and it's really effective for some kids who are actively engaged and participating, and yet there's a significant amount of our school population that aren't engaged with the online learning at all, and then there's some that aren't really meeting expectations with that. And what can our staff do? And I think we'll get to that further along in our board meeting to talk about what are some strategies we can use to really hit that 40% of our students who aren't engaged the way we would like to see them engaged, and meeting the needs of the remainder of this online learning cycle. So I think that'll be an interesting conversation we have. It was very enlightening. It's clear there's a lot of work being done by the staff to try and meet the needs of these students without any notice. So pretty interesting stuff going on, pretty exciting stuff. And there's some decisions we have to make to be able to help.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions on any of the consent agendas? If not, I would need a motion.
Also move.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Mike and a second by Kelly. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion will carry. And then Matt, do you want to take on from 5C from finance?
Sure. I pulled this because it's a multi-million-dollar decision, and ultimately the plan, we had a couple of different companies bid on providing the health insurance coverage for our staff. The one that was selected was Security Health, which is the current healthcare provider. The challenges we dealt with this year in getting bids is our loss ratio was 132%, which means that a significant amount more money was 32% over what was expected. Where last year, or the previous cycle, we were at a loss ratio of 86.4%. So it was very difficult to get competitive bids and find an affordable solution to the healthcare. I'll screw this up, and Michelle's here to fix it for me. But at the end of the day, the overall cost to the district to provide healthcare to our staff next year, based on this plan, is a little over 7% increase in overall cost. Going with this plan, there are some new things for our staff with telemedicine at no cost to them. There are some pretty routine medications that will be provided at no cost to our staff. The premium paid annually through each paycheck by our staff goes down slightly for our employees, but their out-of-pocket in regards to deductibles goes up pretty significantly with this plan. And this becomes a high deductible plan that takes our staff from having the school district contribute to an HSA account, 300 single, 600 family, and it moves us to an HRA benefit, where by going to a much higher deductible plan, the district is going to pick up, once an employee has met their deductible, that they're listed at being, which is consistent with last year, a little bit higher
A portion of it.
portion of
Let's say
it,
a portion.
then the HRA kicks in and the district is billed for those additional deductible dollars until the maximum deductible's been met. So there is a little skin in the game in deductibles for our employees. Their premium goes down slightly. I don't recall the exact number annually, but my recollection is it's $100 or $200 annually in reduced premium. The overall out-of-pocket expense goes up by $300 or $400 per employee. And then ultimately we approved this plan unanimously, but we also had some discussion around why we were at 132%, and we had some high utilizers with specific health needs within our district, but also that there's an opportunity for our district to really change the culture in how we use medicine with telemedicine that's being provided free of charge as part of this plan, and try and reduce some of that loss ratio in the future. Is that
I think you did
okay?
great.
Yeah.
Really good.
So with that being said, are there any questions about the health plan that's proposed?
So I see a percentage, but what is the dollar savings?
Oh, 1 minute.
Tried looking in the treasurer's.
The minimum dollar savings, the minimum dollar increase is $231,249 because we're looking at putting an HRA with it. The insurance piece is, let's see.
But the 17.1% increase would have represented how much of a dollar increase?
76,750. And that's just the district share. That's taking those premiums and the district pays 88% of it.
No,
That can't be right.
No,
okay,
the
what
question
is your
is,
question again?
if our health insurance costs to the district went up by 17.1%,
Oh,
how much money
plan?
does that represent?
That would have been
It's obviously got to be more than $392,000.
$534,000.
There we go.
Okay, and 7% that we're at now represents what?
That represents $231,249 district portion. And I guess I should restate that, Kevin, because that is like the total premium, so.
Makes sense either.
Yeah. We pay 88%, so currently, on our current plan, $2,684,685. The 17.5% plan would have cost the district $3,154,495. $154,495.
So about $460,000 more.
Yes, that's correct.
And we're now going to spend, now it's going to be 7%, which is going to be about 200,000.
231,000.
Yep, I got that.
249.
So I realize we're not likely to spend the 392 entirely on the HRA. But if we were going to see an increase of 470,000, and now we're only going to see 231, but am I understanding, but we're additionally potentially going to add another 392?
The premium, we're changing plans. The new plan would be a decrease of 2.9%. The premium.
Okay. Got
So
it.
our premiums would be lower.
With the HRA, it's going to be 7% more.
And here's another piece too that you don't have on there. It's on your spreadsheet, Kevin. Is the district currently puts in $300 per single and $600 per family for an HSA for a total of $84,000.
Okay.
This might be more than me. You're an insurance guy.
So there's been a lot of work, give a lot of credit to Michelle Brown and Elise Crone. They put a lot of hours the last several weeks with Ansay & Associates when you go out to bid for these sorts of things.
Yep.
But this puts us in a position of, like Matt said so very well, accessing telehealth and moving with the education piece. There is an increase to the district, but the administrative team, I believe that this is the best way to go financially for us, rather than staying with the same plan. We're staying with the same company, which I think the staff will be very happy about. But we are changing the plan. We are recommending changing the plan.
So just for real numbers, because I probably should have taken a better note. The premium is going down for our employees.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the deductible is going up for our employees. So the actual financial difference to our employees is what, potentially? I realize deductible is you have to use it to hit the deductible, but if our employees hit the out-of-pocket max, how much more are they spending this year than last?
While Michelle gets that, I do want to mention the embedded benefits. There's some embedded benefits that don't exist in our current plan that will be in this plan. For example, if there's a family plan, if there's one person who spends a lot more money in the family plan, currently you're going to that group number. There's an embedded benefit in that they just have to hit that first individual, and then the co picks in. So that's an embedded benefit that doesn't exist right now for staff. Additionally, a lot of insurance companies will pay, for example, diabetic supplies. We'll use that example. In our current plan, diabetic supplies are not paid, but in this new one, they are projected to be paid 100%. So there's benefits like that that are embedded benefits that need to be brought up as well.
Right, but if I'm understanding what I'm reading, net to the employee, they're going to see a 2.86% reduction in their total cost.
In their premium.
In their premium, but maybe I'm misunderstanding how it's worded in our materials here. But if their deductible, which was $1,400, $2,800, single and family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's going to go to $2,800, $5,600.
Mm-hmm.
But the district is going to contribute up to $1,400 for single and $2,800 into an HRA, which, if I'm understanding it correctly, makes them whole on the additional out-of-pockets,
The difference.
the additional deductibles.
Mm-hmm.
So on that
Not
perspective,
completely whole, not completely whole.
so if it was $1,400 before, and now it's going to be $2,800.
Mm-hmm.
And the district is on, I'm going to vote for this. I just
Right.
want to understand it.
Yeah, definitely.
If the district is going to put $1,400 into that person's HRA,
Mm-hmm.
they were already on the hook, or were we already putting into an HRA for them
We were-
previously?
One
We were-
clarification about and then I'll let Michelle take it.
This is
Is
HRA.
No, we're
No,
going
no.
to an HRA, we were in an
The
HSA.
difference,
Okay, that's fine.
The difference with the health reimbursement arrangement that
Yeah.
we're gonna do, there's a couple different, there's
Yeah.
a couple different kinds. But the one that we're gonna be using, they're not gonna have, the staff is no longer gonna have direct control like they currently do
Okay,
over the monies this district is putting in.
right. So they could spend it on prescriptions rather than something else.
So right now, so
Right,
the
right
money we
now.
put into the HSA,
Yep.
we're recommending that go to zero. The
Okay.
health reimbursement arrangement, we're recommending the district do that. I just want to make sure that the understanding
Yeah.
is that we're going to stay in control of that as a district.
I see.
We're going to work with a third party in
Administrator.
order to administer it into the plan. Michelle?
The premium is going down 2.8%.
Yep.
Out of pocket, the current plan, maximum out of pocket for a single is $2,050. And that's taking into account the $300 the district's putting in. The premium is $1,308.04. The new out-of-pocket is $2,600. That's taking into account the HRA for a single, and then the new premium is $1,270.64. That's the monthly amount. But the annual amount is a savings. The premium savings. Oh, I got it messed up.
That's all right.
Yeah, basically, without the premium piece.
Sure.
The change to the employee for out of pocket is $550 for single and $1,100 for family.
So Bernie knows this, Mike, you know this, Diane, you know this. 25 years ago, it's only been that long ago, the maximum cost for an entire year for an employee in the district was $6. It was 50 cents a month was the total cost for healthcare. All in. That was out of pocket, that was premium, that was everything. 50 cents a month. Crazy.
I'm not gonna see that.
Now,
No.
I have a question. Where's the districts, you know, after our, let's say we have an epidemic like we are kind of faced with now.
Right.
Where is the trade-off? Where is our balance? How much?
Well, I think that the way that this is written is a high deductible plan. If we have, let's say we have another year like this with some high numbers like this, then we would go back out to bid and we would probably have some really much tougher decisions next year. So our hope is to with education about now that telehealth is free, you know, now that that's, you know, getting to maximize telehealth, which is being talked a lot about on the national level and the state level. Hey, I even texted my wife, let's maximize telehealth. So I mean, all staff, you know, I'm on the plan as well. So the education piece, Matt brought that up in our committee meeting, and it just came up at the end. But it's a big piece that I'm committed to doing, starting with staff, probably as soon as next week. I'll probably jump into some Zoom meetings or meetings with staff to start
But
educating.
you have no figures of where our level is, or where we're going to, if we do reach that threshold, where that'll be.
We know that Security Health has, if we maintain, I think it was 90%, or if we
And
stay-
under,
if
they
if
started
we're-
around 80.
If we're
they were
90%
less.
and under during the 2021, they're willing to lock us in for another year. So right now, they're only willing to bid us and one other company, at just based on our higher plans. So we know there's an incentive for us to be at 90% or less, because what we can do as a board, and for the staff, and with the staff, is have a better plan. We could possibly go out to bid, let's say we're 80% next year. We can go out to bid and even do better for the district and for our staff, with health insurance.
Okay, if we have, if we're between 90% and 92.99% next year with our experience, it's they're guaranteeing a 4.5% increase. And then anything over that, they're not gonna guarantee us, but as low as, less than 81%, they will give us a negative 2%.
Right.
And then they have different,
Right.
spots every, like, 4%.
So the philosophy, so years before Act 10, everything was described in terms of quote, is there, what has the philosophy lately been in Mosinee? When you start adding salaries and benefits together, is there somewhat a similar mindset from a planning forward perspective?
Well, from an actuary perspective, I always look at from staffing, like we've just had in personnel, I always look at it at $75,000 as the median. In other words, there's some above, there's some below total package numbers.
Okay.
So to me, when I'm looking at projections and possibilities, and I know Michelle does this too, that's kind of the midline. Now, that doesn't mean that teachers are all making that. Clearly, that's above our top range.
Right.
But with a family plan, and
Oh, yeah.
so that's how we start to get a handle around staffing expenses.
Okay.
But this will come up in, I think it's 13F. It might be in my report, but it's either in 13F or in my report, that we're having an excellent year, actually it's in 13F, with respect to personnel expenses. We're actually gonna decrease staff only 0.5 FTE in the teaching ranks, and decrease $115,000 and change in our staffing for the 2021. So we have done this, we've increased a counselor, we've increased an EBD teacher. We're following through with all of our hires, but we've increased the dollar to the district at 115 and change. Now that doesn't take into account, we didn't do that at 75, that's just raw dollars in terms of salary. But when I look at things, and I know when Michelle looks at things, we look at 75 is usually the center line
Okay.
for total package. But that's a general number to give us a guide.
My overall take on this was like, and toward our employees in general, is I would like to provide them the absolute best benefits as possible for the most cost effective that we can afford. But if we were to continue to see 132% loss ratios and the cost of insurance goes up by 20-some% a year, the likelihood that I would be in favor of our employees would have to start paying more in premium for us to be able to afford to continue to provide this quality of insurance. I don't think that can go on forever with a reduction in premium, because you can only raise the deductibles so high, right? So that would be my message to the administration staff is, let's do everything in our power to try and keep that loss ratio down so that we can afford to continue to do this without raising premium.
One last point I'll make, and then I'll shut up on this. So there are some school districts where the staff pays a higher percentage of the benefit costs. But my comment about the total package, they then are getting a little bit higher increases or more on the comp side. Because typically, even for the younger staff, well, for all staff in all industries, right or wrong, it's why it sets the benchmark then from which all future increases are paid. And the statistics show, and we all tend to be very insular in our thinking, right? And we have confirmation bias in almost everything. That when those teachers retire from the districts in which they pay more in benefits but get bigger salaries as a result, their pension benefits end up cumulatively being about 26% more in retirement than districts where the districts put almost all of the money into the benefits themselves. And that involves an education feature too. And it might be something as we go back to that well to begin having those conversations, because it's not just about 2020 and 2021. It's about what is somebody going to earn along the way. Yes, even if it costs some people more money if they did not win the healthcare lottery of life in a particular year, or their family. I get that. But then they need to be thinking about the longer term post-retirement aspect of their career earnings as well. Right. And I'm very passionate about that, and I think that I don't think people know that. Yeah. I mean, I know you know that, but I'm not sure that enough of the staff know that, which could enter into a conversation which might maybe think about things differently. Because that would also create an incentive to not be heavy users of the healthcare delivery system in ways that end up really being more destructive in the mid and long run. So, I mean, we want people when they're sick to use the system. We know that. But it was really never set up to be used for hangnails and, headaches on weekends.
Right.
And that's where we get a lot of extra utilization. All right, I'm done.
Okay. Any further discussion?
No.
Am I calling for a vote, or are you?
Or are you making a motion?
Well, sure, I'll make a motion to approve the healthcare proposal as provided to us.
I'll second.
Okay.
Pete, I think that's it.
Pete got you.
Give it to Peter.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so we have a motion by Matt and a second by Peter. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion will carry. Item 10, discussion of possible decision, approval of the monthly vouchers list.
We were relatively short on time. It was a pretty anticlimactic month. The monthly voucher list is for $1,534,899.59, and I would make a motion for us to approve it.
I'll second it.
Okay, a motion by Matt and a second by Mike. Roll call vote, please.
Barnes,
Yes.
Bauman. Yes. Gorman,
Yes?
Hanson,
Yes.
Hermaning,
Yes.
Kaiser,
Yes.
Maple,
Yes.
Zebro.
Yes.
All yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion will pass. Item 11, discussion and possible decision of acceptance of the monthly treasurer's report. Matt?
We did receive a monthly treasurer's report. Our current balance for the district is $16,034,699.78. $5,090,708 of that are in the post-employment benefit trust fund. But that still leaves us with a lot of money on hand. We discussed real briefly with the treasurer's report what some of our expectations are as far as savings to the district, given our current situation, and we talked about, we haven't really utilized it or seen the utility savings yet, but we're expecting to see that. So this will be something that I think this board should maybe we'll provide a little bit more information as we start to see the impact as we realize it of our kids not being in school. So with that being said, I'll make a motion to approve the monthly treasurer's report.
Okay, we have a motion by Nez, or second?
I'll second it.
And a second by Mike. Questions? Roll call, please.
Kaiser,
Yes.
Maple,
Yes.
Zebro,
Yes.
Yes.
Barnes, Bauman. Yes. Gorman,
Yes?
Hanson,
Yes.
Hermaning.
Yes.
All yes.
Motion will pass. Item 12, discussion, school board superintendent communications.
Yes, I have most of it, 1 through 6 listed in the document that I sent out, but with all that's going on and a lot of recent information, I have added a few items to the end, 7, 8, and 9, which I'll put out verbally
Okay.
as well. So school perceptions, we're ready with school perceptions. The staff survey, the senior exit surveys will be going out April 29th or shortly thereafter, along with staff surveys. So we're gonna get all that set to go, so I've had conversations with school perceptions, so we're good to go with that. Grants update, this was asked, actually, for me to put up in this report, so we looked into the grants. We are currently operating $850,000 in state and federal grants, with several grants pending that would take this total over $1 million in the 2021. So those are grants. And there's a LinkedIn document in the digital piece that I sent to everybody that kind of breaks that down. All right, so that's great information. And there were several different points about that. A lot of these are managed, and you can see that in the document who's managing those. But it's for various things. Remote closure update. This is an update learning plan, which went over in CNI already, so that's great. So some school closure updates. I continue to work on this daily in terms of the school closure. Have some information there about expanded Wi-Fi and wheels at food locations. This is very well received in the community. Just had some feedback today. We have several organizations that have put in donations, including Walmart, to additionally put in more donations that we are redistributing. An additional thing that came up just today, this is one of the 3 items. The Marathon County Public Library gave a call, and initially they were going to donate a box or 2 of books that we can redistribute to children. They ended up giving me 24 boxes and almost 1,000 books, which I picked up today, and I have a van, so that it was good that I had the van and not my wife's Subaru. So brought all of those to the elementary school, and our intent is to redistribute those when we have pick up of personal items next week. So Katie is working on that. So a big thank you to the Marathon Public Library. So I'll get a picture out and tie it into their Twitter feed. So very thankful. It was a straight donation of almost 1,000 books, all right? And it was just awesome.
And what were you asking them for, the books for? Just.
I didn't. They reached out to me.
Oh, they did.
So they reached out to me and to several other districts. So I responded and said I'd be happy to to come out there, and it ends up just today, they increased the number of books from a box or two to, can you take 24 boxes? So I quick called Katie and I said, well, is this gonna work with our pickup thing? So it's a win-win. It's our larger community supporting us, so kudos to the Marathon Public Library, and it was in the Wausau, so right close to the offices of Mr. Herman and Mr. Barnes there. So I was over there this about 1 o'clock today, picking up a whole bunch of boxes. So if somebody saw me over there, that was me loading all the boxes into my minivan. So that's great. A lot of different information there. Number 5 is health insurance renewals. A little bit back on the school closure update. A lot of information in the board meeting that we'll get to in this, whether it be an open session or closed session. So I'm excited to get to the rest of the agenda with that. Some information in number 6, and this has been circulating about finances. Number 6 is directly related to 13F in the open board meeting. So 13F in the open board meeting is Michelle Brown, our business manager, did an excellent job with some very forecasting models. So when I wrote number 6, the resolution that circulated, this is a resolution now that's gotten traction all over the state of Wisconsin. And the long and short of it is the resolution is an outreach by superintendents for the government, for the state government to be cautious with any sort of too drastic or harsh reductions, if there's going to be any, to school funding. After that, we're ready to thank you, the Marathon Public Library. Want to jump into something that came out just today. So Mr. Lehman and I were able to talk about this. This is public now, but I'll get more information for the board. This is something that I have quite a bit of experience with. U.S. News and World Report has ranked Mosinee High School as one of the top high schools in the state and nation. So there's a ranking, and what this is, the U.S. News and World Report, there's this ranking system that comes out. And essentially what they do, this is different than the state report card, is they use some different metrics, okay? And the different metrics are advanced placement classes, who takes them, how many take them, and how they do, along with IB, International Baccalaureate classes. It also takes into account math and reading proficiency, and math and reading performance. So proficiency and performance, but also graduation rate, and several other factors, including college curriculum breadth. So it's a U.S. News, and you'll see some information about that. I was just notified today, and Mr. Lehman and I were talking about the details of it, because it is a different metric. It's something that I've dealt with for several years in a previous district. It's a nice honor, but it is the metric is different than how a state report card is developed. Okay, so it's a very nice honor. It puts a ranking out there of high schools in the state and nation, and it lists Mosinee High School as a top 40% high school in the nation. It's a nice award. That's new information today. Last thing, thank you to all staff. All of our staff have been absolutely outstanding. So whether teachers remote teaching from home, the administrative team, several of them are here right now, Amy, all of the staff have been doing an amazing job. This week we have some return to work things that have been listed in personnel, and we do have staff in getting things ready for return of items, and they're doing great. Some are painting, some are doing different things, so just I'd like the board to know and the community to know that our staff is actively working in a lot of different ways, answering phones, we're getting things rolling in terms of some basic operations, just some basic operations. Obviously, we'd love to have students back as soon as possible, but that's just not possible at this point. All right, so I'm really proud of all the staff, and I just want a special call out to the hourly staff. I was in there today, I was in the high school and the elementary school today, and they are getting the personal items organized and then moving on to next steps in terms of plans that we have for them. So we're excited about that. I just wanted to report that piece from today. That's all that I have.
David, with the stuff that you're returning, are the students that are left in the lockers, correct?
Right, yeah, and there's several different places. For example, at the high school, there would be athletic lockers,
Okay.
the regular lockers, and then also, for example, band lockers.
Okay.
Obviously use, a band or a choir locker, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of different pieces to it, and And the high school is getting pretty close to ready, but we have a system set up for next week. I've already communicated that with all families. So there's a system that will start on Monday. And actually, right in this board meeting, we're also gonna be getting some assistance from the Lions Club on Monday morning, because that'll probably be our busiest morning, it looks like. So I continue to, people are outreaching, the community's been great, and I've been trying to be as accepting as possible of that assistance and working myself with them, so yes.
So with that then, how are you delivering it to them, in bags or boxes or?
Yeah, both bags, we had a donation from Mullins Cheese, so we had a donation of brown paper bags, but then we also have some plastic, so we're doing a mix of both.
Okay,
We're thinking about boxes, but we decided against that, just based on how it was gonna actually be put into people's cars.
yeah,
So we're gonna have a system, everybody centered around, they're all parents, where parents or students, they drive, of course, a lot of high schoolers drive. They can come up, we identify who they are, we make sure they have everything, get everything,
right.
and then they can move on, so. we'll
Yeah,
be
make
up.
sure the right person gets the right.
Yep,
right,
we have a system, the principals have done a great job of setting up a system, so all three, actually all six of them, are kind of making sure we're getting ready for that, and making sure that it's a great system and we get everything back.
Okay, great, thanks.
You bet.
Thanks, David.
Moving on to 13, new business, discussion and possible decision, approval of Department of Public Instruction waiver of instructional minutes.
Yeah, I linked in, and Julie and I, and I've been checking with Julie, the DPI. What you have linked in here is a document. The way the Department of Public Instruction is doing this is we are recommending the approval of the instructional hours waiver. And most if not almost all districts are having their boards approve this. The DPI is recommending this exact language. And essentially what it does is it waives each individual level, elementary, middle, and high, has a minimum number of instructional minutes to reach. Just based on remote learning, it makes sense. The DPI is recommending boards approve this so that we can establish ourselves locally the end of this process. The DPI has already said, in other words, the state has already said that if the board approves this, they will approve the waiver. There's not another process. It actually is this form, and we were looking for something else or something more, complex or whatever, but it is that Google form that I just PDF'd and put into your packet.
I'll make a motion to approve the instructional hours waiver.
And
Do you wanna do a motion?
right,
Read it
and
as
there's
is.
an opportunity with this to do some further things if the board chooses to. But approving the waiver is definitely one part of it.
So, language regarding, discussion regarding end of school year and things like that, do you want that, would it all be associated with this
Right.
motion?
It fits with 13A. So graduation date, things that a lot of board members have reached out, end of the remote learning, or return to school, end of remote learning, graduation. I think it fits right with this
I'd
post.
like to adjust my motion.
Okay, would you like to read the motion? That's,
Pretty much have it cranked out, but if you have a hard copy right there, they can read it.
here. I think the other thing we were
My
thinking
motion's not gonna be that.
the corrected dates, or the dates.
Does this have, I'm just looking, does this have the graduation date on it?
No.
So,
Yeah.
I spoke with, in the last week, I spoke with Mr. Lehman and discussed graduation dates, more so as a parent of two seniors. So we had a discussion about prom, we had a discussion about graduation date, and we've also had conversations about should the remote learning end before May 29th. And in some of the materials that are available, there are unknowns about ending the school year too early. So if we want to end it at May 1st, maybe that would work. but at the same time, we don't know what the potential consequences could come from DPI or from the state in regards with sanctions or things like that. So with that being said, in those conversations, which I will include in my motion, you'll just have to get all this squared away, was a prom date, should it be available with the Safer Home Order and whatever's going on in our society at that time, of August 1st, which is a Saturday, with the following Friday being the proposed graduation date, which would be a Friday evening graduation, and I think that's the 7th.
7th of August?
That is
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
The motivation for August is things seem to be shut down via the month. So if we pick late July, we run a risk of, and I just don't think we get a third kick the cat to be able to try and schedule a graduation or those type of events. So those two dates would be part of my motion, and I can go along with May 22nd. So my motion would be to accept the instructional waivers with an end of remote learning no later than May 22nd.
May 22nd?
Yes.
With the understanding that from May 22nd to May 29th, we'd be working with students who are struggling or failing.
Okay.
I mean, this isn't part of my motion, but this is what I think, which is, we have a percentage of our students that are working really hard and diligently and getting their work done. They're given, especially our older kids in high school, they're given a block of work on Monday, and they're given the week to do it. I would suggest that our district work really hard in the next week and give our high school students their entire block of work for the rest of the school year. So you will have a large percentage of those kids that do all the work in the next week or week and a half, and they are technically done by May 1st. They can turn in their Chromebooks, the parents can be notified that they've completed their class, and you can know that you're done. And that allows our staff the ability to then, instead of focusing on the whole of the students, to spend the rest of the scheduled school year focus on that 40% of our students that aren't meeting our expectations or aren't doing their work. I just have to believe it's easier for our staff to be able to focus on a smaller number of kids than the whole. May 22nd is a fine date, but I think if we're able to accomplish that with our students, by getting those students that are doing the work, they're gonna get it done, and then they can be done with school when they're done with school, because we're really project-based at that point.
Is that gonna give them enough time for the ones that are not completing the projects, that only that window of the 22nd to the 29th? Would you rather, if these kids are gonna complete it, should we bump that date?
Well, I don't think we change the date, because the teachers are available. If students work ahead and get their work done, they're getting their work done, right? They're putting in the time. My concern with us changing the date any earlier in a motion is that we run the risk. I mean, I saw a letter from an attorney representing the superintendents for Westview. It's like, hey, be really careful about changing this date, because we don't know what the consequences are. I'm paraphrasing the letter, so that's my concern. It doesn't do anything for us to shut it down before that, because our staff can work with our students to get them done. And then the staff can really spend the time making phone calls and dealing with the kids that they haven't heard from through this entire online learning virtual experiment we're doing.
And David, will there be an opportunity for some of those students that won't make it past the 29th? Let's say if they've been pushing things off and they're just really far behind, or we're gonna let them go beyond that date?
No, we'd have staff would be done. Staff would be done on the 29th. So right now, I believe our RTI teams and our intervention teams are doing a great job right now of identifying students who are struggling and need assistance. So I think that the order, the way that the motion, the way that I understand it, I think it's it would give us plenty of time to do what we need to do. Meaning that, no later than May 22nd, with a graduation date of August 7th.
First, oh yes, 7th.
Yeah,
So the graduation date of August 7th, prom August 1st. And it gives the district an opportunity to work with struggling students, IEP process completion, AP classes, dual credit classes, any other assistance that the district can provide to students between the 22nd and the 29th. So all of that Yes, I believe the motion the way that I understand it,
You can feel free to make my motion the way you wrote it here, including an August 1st prom, August 7th graduation, and the rest of it was my rhetoric suggesting how I think it should be handled with the rest of the students to create more opportunity for those struggling kids.
David, I have a question. Am I understanding right that all staff is done teaching at May 29th?
yeah, that's the end of the contract year.
Okay, so they no longer teach into June then?
Right.
Okay.
We had an adjustment of 1 day,
Okay.
that we actioned several board meetings ago. So at this point, the 29th is the end of the contract year.
So-
Now,
okay.
we do have professional development. That we are working on. Once the board has a motion that's voted on and accepted, then we can really start setting ourselves with students and with staff about needed professional development with our teachers, because we're already doing that with our hourly staff, but leaning in with our teachers, especially in that window, the 27th, 28th, 29th, to really dial into a professional development and know that that is after the end of the governor's order.
I have a question regarding his thing. So you said the teachers could give the students a whole month worth of work. And if they get it done in a week, they can be done with school?
Yep.
Well, I think what Mr. Barnes is referencing is a manner of, there are a lot of different ways to go about teaching and learning. So in a lot of environments that I've looked at and worked in over the years, it's like project-based learning. If you're in a project-based learning environment, you have X amount of projects, say 10 or 5 or 15, to do in a semester's worth of time. Once they're completed with the projects and they've been assessed on that, in our current pass-fail system, then the teachers and our counselors and everybody, they can start focusing on those that didn't do the work. You know, the teachers are going to continue to work, but not with those that have pushed ahead with, you know, projects or work that have been put out there by staff. I believe, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, Mr. Barnes, but I think that's what.
Do you feel that by giving the students that option,
Yeah.
that they'll do, pardon the
Mediocre
language, a
job.
half-assed
Yeah,
job just
right.
because we're giving them a pass-fail grade?
I think it's a difficult position for not just the students, but also the teachers and for all of us.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna continue to push. The teachers are working very hard. They're doing the very best they can in a situation that is extraordinary. So that being said, I think some of the percentages that were brought up earlier with respect to engagement and those, I know of at least 2 principals in this district that are doing home visits and checking in on students that haven't logged in or checked in. And that's just awesome. That's great. In other words, we have a percentage of students that we're reaching out to try to engage, but it's really hard when, you know, they're not allowed to be with our intervention teams and in our breakout groups and have our teachers right there. So I think this is a possibility. I think it's an educational option that we should leave out to the teachers and to their principals and their teacher teams. Because each teacher team might think about it a little bit differently, right? So example, when I was teaching social studies decades ago, a long time ago, right? My teacher team of 12 social studies teachers at Manitowoc Lincoln High School, we would have a very different perspective because, you know, we would probably cluster it, but it was a much larger school, you know, and so I think we leave those decisions up to the principals and their teacher teams, because it'll be different at the high school than it will be at the middle school and the elementary.
Right.
So this, I mean, Mr. Barnes has high school students, actually so do I. So, but Mr. Barnes has high school students, so there's a different perspective for how high school teachers can go about doing this, rather like elementary. So that's part of it.
Can we break this motion up into different pieces, or are we just gonna throw this whole thing as one lump and?
Well, I think it's a big discussion. I think it's like 13A and 13F. I mean, everything is important on the board agenda, but 13A and 13F are some major items, so I think there's been a motion, or,
No, we didn't make the motion yet. We
Okay.
could make that
No, I made the motion, but I think to your point, the
We don't have
concept,
point of order.
Yeah, well,
I think we need a second
correct.
before we
Well, I
continue
want to
discussion.
second it, but I have a question before I was,
So did you,
for clarification. Matt, is part of the motion to the 29th? I looked at the school calendar, David, and what is Monday, June 1st, wrap-up day? Is that a contract day or no?
well, it was a contract day, but, based on, Brady, why don't you help me out with that?
So in the right when this all happened in mid-March, the admin team met and we were really struggling with how, at that point, it was like we needed to move now. So we used that day, that teacher wrap-up day, as the buyback of teachers needing to work nights, weekends. Because at that point we were telling them, hey, you got to be ready for digital learning now. We're off of school. So our buyback to them was basically saying, we're going to cut June 1st with the expectation you're putting in 8 hours of outside time between now and the Monday we come back to school,
Yep.
you know,
Sorry, we
over
were
that 4
discussing that
days.
this morning at our admin meeting. So the 29th of May is the end, of teacher contracts, for this school year. You're welcome.
okay, the only question I have, you know, pertaining to Matt's motion is there work right now that these students will have to grab, or does the staff have that available for these students to get out to finish right now?
yeah, but that was, I mean, I probably
I
didn't
know.
do a good job. That's not part of the motion. The motion is that
I didn't
it ends on
remember
the 22nd,
Right.
and we have a prom and a graduation day. The rest was me telling you what I think the staff should do.
So then Matt makes the motion, we need a second, and then we can discuss also.
Well, he made the motion,
Right, nobody seconded.
Peter seconded
Oh,
it.
we did, you're
I'll
right.
second it, yeah, I'll second it.
But see, my only concern is I just don't think the 22nd through 29th, if we have a bigger percentage of students that the teachers really need to work with, is enough time to get them to pass. And I
No, I don't disagree with you, but it's not changing that date. That's why I'm saying that you can get the work done ahead of time, and we can encourage our staff to get that work to our students so that they open up more time in their very busy days to be able to work with that population. But it's not worth the risk to officially change the end of school date before the 22nd and potentially suffer consequences for shortening our school year in addition to making it a virtual thing. It's not worth it to our district to take that risk.
I have.
When you can do the same thing, you're
Right,
doing
well, I
it
just
in
don't
the
wanna
actions
lose,
of the teacher.
Right.
and I didn't wanna lose the students who are doing their work by saying, well, I'm already up to this point, now I can postpone and not do any work for 2 weeks.
And then I have a comment off it. Amy's, would it be,
Do we have a second yet?
Yes,
yeah,
Peter.
Peter did,
Thank you.
we're in discussion, yes. And would it be beneficial to do, like possibly only for the high school to be done at the 22nd, and then the middle school and the elementary? Because can students, elementary students read into that and be done at the 22nd, right?
Okay, so.
Or am I reading too much into
No,
that?
well, let me just take a step back. I sent a message to all board members, and it was from Wisconsin Association of School District Administrators, an attorney for the
Right.
Wisconsin Association of School District Administrators. They work very closely with the WASB. So the nature of the motion keeps the school district in a necessary position that's being recommended by that WASDA, Wisconsin Association of School District Administrators attorney, for how the board should move forward. You know, I know there were some discussions about possibly, internal discussions maybe, about ending the order earlier than the end of the school year. So what this is establishing is an end to remote learning, but that we're gonna continue to work with students right to the last day with teachers, if necessary and if needed, based on intervention plans, IEPs, and all of that sort of thing. So I think since I posted the board packet, we continue to get updates and information, and I tried to provide that out. So I do apologize for some of the additional messages, but we're getting advice on a daily basis. including as recently as this afternoon from the WIA that I then sent to the board, about some other discussions that we'll be having, so.
Okay. Kevin, I know you.
Well, I was going to actually make a motion to postpone the decision until after the closed session.
After?
Till after the closed session. I'm gonna make that as a motion. So a motion to postpone a vote and additional discussion, and a vote on this requires a second, a majority vote. It's different than a motion to table. So my motion is to postpone the rest of this conversation and a vote until after the closed session.
Okay.
Can I ask the rationale on that?
Well, we need a second first.
Oh, before we go into.
Well, for discussion, because he's already got a
Yeah,
motion.
you're right.
So now we need a second to Kevin's motion, then we can have a
But
discussion.
I don't know if I want a second, I without
You
knowing.
can still vote no.
Well, I'll second it.
Okay.
There you
It's
go.
still the same decision we need to make.
Correct.
Okay, now we can
Now,
ask your
I'd like to
question.
know the rationale.
Because I think there are additional topics that potentially could come up here. I would like to ask the board to consider making an amendment to our current proposed plan. And I think that by going into the rest of that conversation right now, it clouds some of the other conversations we need to have as it relates to finances and graduation requirements and handbook changes.
Okay.
So to me, if we have that discussion now, none of those other three things really would be in the way of
Yeah,
what my
thank you.
request is going to be.
Okay.
Mike?
When I was kind of with Matt's proposal, I think it should be done and let it run as it is. I mean, if these kids can run with more, let them. You know, the ones that are more aggressive and they have the self-starters. But that teacher's got that workload within students that are harder to learn or rebellious to learn, such as me.
Okay.
And I think I'll just add this real quick, Mike, to your point, like, yes, you're absolutely right, there are some rebellious kids, but when I talk to a fourth grade parent whose child gets on and is face to face through the computer screen with their teacher multiple times a week, it's a scheduled time, and there's 22 kids in that class, and they've averaged 9 kids participating in that interaction with the teacher, that's not on the fourth grader. That's on parents having the ability or the desire to work with their kids through this process. So through no fault of some of our kids' own, I don't hold them responsible when they're an elementary school student to being online and participating in the class. There has to be some adult supervision that aids to that. So I don't think it's all the kids. I think it has to do with the whole situation.
Oh.
Yeah, I can do that in closed or not,
Okay,
whatever,
okay.
just the.
Got it. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll vote on Kevin's motion first.
Right. Right, we gotta vote on Kevin's
Peter?
first.
Jess,
Yeah.
any questions?
No, that's fine with me.
Okay, Jess?
I guess I have some comments and would like to offer my perspective at this time. I'm just concerned a little bit about the messaging that's been sent out thus far, to the kids and to the parents. And I don't think that we should have a cookie cutter solution because it's different for every building. And what I'm trying to understand myself is the whole grading system. So currently what I know is that it's either a pass or a fail. But now, if we go to this, here's the potential solution of, here's the rest of your homework for the remainder of the year, get it done. Is it still either a pass or fail? And quite honestly, how is that determined? So if some kids miss some assignments for whatever reason, that how is this grade figured out? So I'm not sure if me as a board member / parent has some concerns, is this messaging clear to the parents? Number one. But then I also think about the students that are taking A&P classes and how is this going to affect their potential GPA. So I think whatever we decide, that the messaging needs to be clear, because keep in mind, while we're sitting there saying that it's on the parents and the adults to help, there are many parents that are still having to do their job / daycare and be a teacher as well. So there's a lot of moving parts that we have to take into consideration as we're making this decision. So at some point, I think we also need to pivot and really focus on summer school and make sure that we have really solid core curriculum to help set those kids that are struggling up for success in summer school to carry on into the next year.
I think I can answer the pedagogy in terms of, I think we leave the how the teachers are going to go about utilizing the rest of the year up to the teachers. I think the suggestions from Mr. Barnes are good ones. I think they bring up what some teachers could do, and some teachers would be, for example, if they're in hands-on classes where they're building things or have projects already, it would make sense in those environments. So I think we can leave that up to the teachers, the principals, and the teacher teams, and that we, that that's not something that's necessarily part of the motion or any of the motions, I think.
No, but I think
I'm just saying that, go ahead.
No, I think you make a good point, which is, at some point, we need to focus on where we can have the most impact in keeping students at grade level and proficient and where they need to be with reading and writing and comprehension and math. And I think you're absolutely right that should we have summer school, that's our best option, because I'm not sure how successful we are, especially with elementary and middle school students right now in this model.
I agree, and quite honestly, even high school. I know a lot of high school students that they're pivoting their focus now to employment and life skills. So it's really, at what point do we say we need to shift the focus to be more forward thinking, but also keep in mind that, God forbid, we get another second wave, potentially, of this virus or another type of pandemic. Are we truly ready to go virtual with a solid plan the next time we may need it?
Good points. And, you brought up some really good points. And again, I guess my concern is still out there at May 20th, and then only another week. If we've got students that haven't been touching or looking at anything, are we creating a bigger gap? Yet, that they're never gonna catch up, and yet the ones who are working.
I say we won't.
Okay, can you reiterate what we're voting on?
So the thing we're voting on is Kevin's motion, which is just to move it after closed session to bring it back. Is that correct, Kevin?
Yes.
So we can go through the rest of the agenda, maybe think about it a little bit more and bring it back. So that's
when we go back into open session.
We go back into
yes.
open session, correct. And then depending how that one goes, if that passes, we will then go, if it doesn't pass, we'll go to Matt's motion,
Correct.
which was going until the 22nd of May with the addition on 29th for the students to catch up who haven't completed their projects, with an August 1st prom and an August 7th graduation.
To the point you made earlier, I realize we're going on a rabbit hole, but
Yeah.
for graduation and prom, should we split it and make that its own motion? Because the part that's contentious that I think we want to address and pay attention to probably has more to do with the end of school day. And I don't know if that ship's off the dock, so to speak, with.
Are you shutting off discussion if my motion fails? Are you moving then right into a vote on his motion?
No, we can go back into discussion.
Okay, just wondering.
Okay.
Let's vote.
Okay. So the first, again, we're voting in Kevin's. So just because it's kind of weird, I'm gonna ask for a roll call vote, please.
And then roll call is to,
We're gonna
Just
go
to
out of
postpone
close,
Go
we're gonna be
into
back into
close.
open for more.
Discuss it.
By postponing with a period certain, it requires it to come back for discussion.
More
It's not like a
discussion,
table.
yeah.
Right,
Right,
Yes.
More discussion.
we're just moving the item.
periods, yeah, so you,
It's different.
the board has to,
Right, I didn't want to table it.
No.
the
Right.
board has to come out in open session
Right.
and finish their process.
Okay.
Harmony,
Yes.
Kaiser,
Yes.
Maple,
Yes, ma'am.
Zebro,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Bauman,
yes.
Gorman,
Yes?
Hanson,
Yes.
Okay, the motion will pass. So
Great.
we will move on and bring that back.
That was a new one.
Very good. Good discussion. Okay, so keep your thinking hats on, this is gonna come back. Again, after closed session, we'll bring it back into open. Item B, discussion and possible decision, acceptance of statements of the board canvassers. And that's on your packet,
Yes.
Yes.
so we just need a motion to approve. Oh,
I'll make a motion to approve.
okay, we have a motion by Amy, is there a second?
Second.
And a second by Kevin. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion will carry. Item C, discussion and possible decision, approval of the fee changes for the 2021 school year. And again, it's in your packet. So this is just for the high school classes, I see.
Yeah, there's some minor changes there, pretty straightforward.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have
I'll second it.
a motion by Amy and I'm sorry, second was that Mike?
Mike.
Okay, further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion will carry. Item D, discussion and possible decision, approval of the elementary, middle, and high school handbooks for the 2021 school year. And
Yep.
again, all the changes were highlighted in the second.
Yep, all the principals did a great job of getting that updated. They have some documents and information there about the changes. And so, pretty straightforward.
So I need a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the changes to the middle school handbook.
I'll second it.
All of them.
I'll
Oh,
second
all of
that.
them, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, so we have a
Yeah, okay.
motion by Kelly and a second by Peter. Any discussion, questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion will carry. Item E, discussion and possible decision, approval of the senior exit interview exemption.
Yeah, in policy, and that's linked in there, the policy that this is based on the COVID-19 closures and our students not gonna be able to be in school, we need to have an approval of a senior exit interview exemption. So an exemption so that they can graduate without doing the senior exit interviews, which is recommended.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
And that is not a state requirement, correct?
No, that's a
It's
policy.
our own policy.
Yeah, policy 5460 talks about a senior, which is a very good process, but not possible during this cycle.
Okay. So we have a motion by Matt, is there a second?
I'll second it.
And a second by Kelly, any other questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion will carry. Item F, discussion and possible decision, overall district finances.
Yeah, I've been asked by several board members, just based on some uncertainty with the state finances, and I'll be more specific, with so many businesses closed down throughout the state of Wisconsin, including in our school district and in Marathon County, the state is expecting a substantial drop in their taxes that they're bringing in. So we were told, meaning superintendents, many superintendents have been on many calls, in Zoom meetings, and phone calls. We've been advised by members of the state legislature to be, of the possibility of some changes to our existing, what we've already been approved by the state to have for the 2021 school year. just as a note for the board, that we're in the middle of a biennium, so the state already approved money for this school year and next school year. So we have been strongly and we've been advised not just by our attorneys but also by legislators directly that there's a lot of possible legislation pending about the possibility of reducing what has already been approved for our district for the 2021 school year. So with that general understanding, thank you, Michelle, for staying this long. Michelle put a lot of work into 4 different Baird forecasting scenarios. Now, all of these are based on the now approved health insurance increase of 7.04%. So you'll see in all of those models that Michelle has built in the 7.04% increase for insurance, and then she has several different, 179 is that's what we're projected to have. So that first sheet, 3787, talks about your fund balance. The numbers that you should draw your attention to is, still a very good fund balance, 35%, 33 to 35 to 36%, 7.04%. She did it 100 increase. So if they reduce us, I wanted us to have an idea, the board, have a big picture discussion. Hey, if they reduce us, now what does it look like? And you can see what the fund balance looks like, the expenditures, Fund 10, and a lot of the big pieces. I also had some scarier scenarios. Now these are just possibilities. So Baird forecasting models, there's an actual program that Michelle's an expert at. She enjoys them, she likes them. She has a very good relationship with Baird, and Baird handles a lot of, the majority of school district debt financing and that sort of thing in the state. So projecting a $50 increase in the revenue limit, which, all of these projections, even zero, if you jump to zero, we're still projecting between a 32 to 35% fund balance, and that's not even building in some of the savings that have already been explained to the board. I just want to reference one other document, and it's an email that I sent to the board, and I will just reference some of this information was after the board, packet. So it was an email that said further insights to help with the 13F discussion, and some of the information that I put in there, and then questions for myself or Michelle with big picture how we're doing, things that this board has done in an extremely, just like I put in the email, that we were able earlier this year, this board, with your action and votes, were able not to levy for the Fund 38 Science Edition debt payments for close to 4 years, which at the time was worded as retiring the debt, which is what it is retiring the debt. We were then able to levy the funds we would have had to use in Fund 38, freed up $1 million in levy ability to use for general purpose expenditures. This board did that, and I communicated in the Mosinee link to the community about this. There's an extreme positive thing that the school board did earlier this year. Also, we did lower the levy, $364,473. The levy was $364,473 lower in the 1920 than the 1819. So that's something this board has already done. You lowered the mill, you decreased tax bills for local citizens. Also, and this was the additional piece that kind of required the email, is that by only reducing 0.5 FTE in teacher staffs, we have a cost differential of $115,900 in teaching FTE just based on where people retired and positions and where we hired different people. So you can see that number there. We were projected to have a $242,000, $770 salary increase for teachers. That's actually been reduced based on how we went about hiring to $126,870 based on that $115,900. So that's all in an email to staff, and then I put a brief there. In short, this school board has done some amazing work. I'm very thankful for it. I know the community is thankful for it, that You've lowered the mill, you've lowered taxes, you've retired debt, and continued to have, you know, the big picture in mind from a government's perspective. So I wanted to put that out there. If there's any questions about the Barrett forecast models and anything on any of those sheets, obviously Michelle is here. Or if you have questions for me, I think it was an important piece, especially given a lot of the financial uncertainty around the country and the state and the region. I think this is a very apt and appropriate timing.
One of the things I want to say that is in here is salary increases. According to the salary schedules that we have, that is already in here for the teachers, you know, based on the savings from the changes in staffing, plus their increase. We're looking at a 1.5% increase for our teaching staff overall, and then support staff based on the schedule and
that's all
administrators.
that's built
in
into
there.
all 4 months.
Yes, along with the maximum we would be paying in the HRA, small increase in transportation, and small increase projected in the technology budget over Brady's several-year plan that he has. And the way we get these dollars may differ if the state does lower the revenue limit. Probably the reasoning that they would lower the revenue limit is if they choose to lower state aid. So some of those things would change, but the dollar amount of our revenue would be basically the same on these scenarios.
And I think this is a good starting point for future discussions into the summer about state finance and like fund accounting, and this board's done a great job with like Fund 46 and Fund 10 and and this is a good like start for us of jumping in to even more finance and big picture money in terms of how the state goes about doing this. Because Michelle bringing up revenue limits, I mean, there's 2 different sides to that scenario. Why don't you jump into that a little bit? Revenue limits is one side.
Yeah, the state allows us, and I think we talked about this briefly when we adopted the budget last October, but, or the tax levy, was based on our membership, our property values. Those things help to set what our revenue limit is, and it goes way back to what we spent in the 1990s at a certain year. And then each year, the state may, according to the biennial budget, they may say, we're gonna allow you to increase your revenue limit per member by this dollar amount. What the current budget says is $179. So that's the one of the scenarios, you know, is the budget, the state's current budget. And based on that, we could increase our revenues based on our membership, September membership FT of 1985, would increase our revenue limit $472,552 for that 179 scenario. Fund 10 revenues would be $24,377,954. Out of that, we take what our state aid is, and then the balance is what we can levy in Fund 10 and Fund 38.
Right.
So,
and then big picture, there's property values
right.
and equalized property values, and there's a whole.
And that is, yeah, that's a big factor in our state aid. Is how much we've spent, our membership there, our property values. That determines how we're aided.
So the overall summary is, in any scenario, while we're financially rock solid, largely because of some of the decisions this board has made, retiring $1 million in debt. A lot of decisions this board have made have been, in my view, fiscally responsible, and we lowered the mill rate by $360-some thousand, and we're still able to have an amazing school district. So I think that my summary and my brief to the board, and it's Michelle's perspective as well, and feel free to have questions to either Michelle or myself, is that we're financially solid. And that we're very fortunate through the work of the board to be in a financially excellent situation. an outstanding situation for this year and next year, for sure. And we'll wait and see what the state does.
Okay, any questions? We don't need a decision on this, correct?
We really don't, but like Michelle, I'm very thankful for you staying, but if there are detailed questions about our financial, any aspects of this, like I said, I think even if there's not, this is a good springboard to jump in more into the fund accounting, and we're gonna have some things about Fund 46 coming up, most certainly. Because Fund 46 is now active. Now. So those will be discussions that we started to have, but now they're real, because we can start using Fund 46 in May if you choose to.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to other reports. WASB.
Okay, that is me, and we do have a new school board member, which will be swearing in on Monday, right?
Yep, we've had Mrs. Stankowski, we've had a good conversation, and she's gonna be with me tomorrow, and Amy and Brady, for some onboarding and to get some things together in terms of her devices, her logins, some other onboarding information. So we've had some really good discussions. So we're
We
excited to
have,
have,
which I'm sure she hopefully will know, there's the new school board member
Yep.
webinar
yep, that is.
tonight, tomorrow,
I
and
forwarded
Thursday.
that to her today.
Yep.
What's that?
I forwarded
Thank
that
you.
today.
Yep.
And then there is some spring workshops, but with COVID-19, everything's kinda, so I'm just leaving everything as is. And that's all I have.
Okay. CISA.
CISA was a astoundingly long meeting. It started at 6:30 and ended at 8:10. It's a 3-page packet. It's good reading. I recommend it.
All right, thank you.
Item 15, future agenda items. Is there anybody who would like to bring something forward for next month's meetings? Nope, all right. All right, moving on to closed executive session. The board will go into closed executive session pursuant to sections 19.85(1) of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of considering dismissal, demotion, licensing, and or discipline of any public employee, and section 19.85(1) of the Wisconsin
Take care.
statutes for the purpose of considering compensation of any public employee over which the school board exercises jurisdiction, and section 19.85(1) of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of rendering advice from legal counsel with respect to litigation.
The northwestern area up there with
No, I was right on the list.
Make the motion.
3,900.
Okay, so we have a motion by Matt and a second by Kelly. Roll call, please.
Okay,
I'm not reading off.
3,900 from downtown.
okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
So you need to know when you're
Barnes,
good. Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Gorman,
Yes?
Hanson,
Yes.
Hermany,
Yes.
Kaiser,
Yes.
Maple,
Yes.
Zebro.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
All right, we have a 5-minute break, everybody. We need a 5-minute break. I gotta check the device to make sure our screen is operating. Brady, are we disconnected?
You mean not operate?
Yeah. I'll always
Yeah.
abstain if you weren't there.
I don't know. Are we there yet?
He needs to make sure he's back on YouTube.
So I'll reiterate.
We're not yet ready yet.
Hold on.
This one.
Yep.
We gotta get the technology.
Yep.
of it. We need some teenagers in here just to run.
I gotta see what's on my screen since I'm projecting the whole. We got Robert's rules. Okay.
Oh.
Oh, you didn't think I knew mine?
I was just double checking.
Hi.
I was pretty sure. I was
No.
pretty sure.
I got my
Hey,
book
you
here
still want
right
to
now.
Hey, I'm
answer a
double
question
checking.
Before Monday.
Oh.
Almost there.
Oh, you're good, Brady. Hey, Brady, thanks for staying.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. What do you mean? That's the date that he mentioned. It came in a further, I sent a louder message. There was a lot of emails, I apologize.
I know.
We're good.
Okay, we're good, we're good right now.
Some things I
We're,
Okay.
It's live.
wow.
Okay, so we're now back into open session in which we are bringing back item 13A.
Right.
In which the motion was by Matt and second by Peter.
Should I read it?
Yes, please.
Well, I'll read the motion, which is, I move that the Mosinee School Board recommends waiving the Mosinee School District instructional minutes requirement for the 1920 school year as outlined in the Wisconsin DPI. Furthermore, the Mosinee School Board recommends ending the current remote learning environment no later than May 22nd, 2020, and establishing an alternate prom date of August 1st, 2020, and graduation date of August 7th, if both dates are needed. School district staff would be further working May 22nd through May 29th on remediating struggling students, IEP process completion, AP classes and dual credit classes, in-person professional development, and device turn-in procedures.
Okay. So that is the motion by Matt with a second by Peter. Discussion.
I want to know why those dates were selected for graduation and prom. Why isn't the administration picking those dates?
Well, the administration was involved. We were involved in discussions with several board members who reached out, or community members who reached out. Nate and I have been talking about graduation dates for several weeks, possible graduation dates. Part of it was, I have a group of principals around the state who I still collaborate with. And a lot of them were recommending as recently as last week, they were pushing for the last week in July or the first week in August. And it's the River Falls principal specifically, is a really good friend of mine, and then Sauk Prairie principal, really good friend of mine, and along with others. And they were strongly moving in that direction anyway. So Nate and I had conversations about the 24th of July, but after some discussions about making sure that we get a date that we can do, that parents can come, the community can come, and we can celebrate our seniors, that we kind of settled on, all right, let's set it as far back as we can to make sure that we can give these kids their due celebration. And then prom as well. That's something that Nate had brought up to me in kind of the course of the conversations. So that's the nature of it.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, I'll.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes, in terms of the May 22nd, I'm struggling with that end date, giving 1 week for those kids that are struggling to get caught up. So the other kids or everybody else is going to continue until May 22nd, or is it going to be discretionary upon the teacher to let the kids know when they have met the requirement?
I think we're gonna leave. I would recommend leaving things up to the principals and their leadership teams about how to approach this order or this motion. So that's what we have them doing, more the art of teaching. So like I said, what would happen at the high school or the middle school or the elementary school are very different things. That would be very different. Just like in a regular school year, a high school does, so for example, final exams. I'll give you an example. So being a high school principal for a lot of years, high schools do final exams. Well, elementary schools have never done they don't do final exams, right? They have other things going on during that same time. So in the same breath and in the same vein, leaving it to the principals and their leadership teams to look at this motion and to make decisions. So I think there would be some definitely done, especially in the high school. There'd definitely be a possibility of, in a project-based class, perhaps finishing before May 22nd for sure. But that would be up to, the teacher teams and the leadership teams and the principals. Looks like Kevin had.
Are you checking in yourself with any instructional staff or just through your leadership team? In other words, how is the staff doing during this very tough time? Stress, I mean, we know health concerns,
Yeah, I've had a lot of staff reach out, and I've reached out to staff, so, and a lot of the, you're right, the teaching staff specifically, so a lot of different groups. As recently as this week, I've reached out to our hourly staff, so a lot of which are whom are essential personnel and working in different capacities. I actually went around and spent most of Monday, all of Monday morning. I know I'd had my schedule for a briefer amount of time, but Amy's like, I kept sending her messages, I'm still going group to group. You know, I was going building to building and group to group to talk to staff. They're all appreciative of what the board has done to this point, those staff that I was talking to this week. The instructional staff, to get to your question more directly, a lot of them have reached out, are equally appreciative. Some are stressed, you bet. There's some stress because, you know, the teachers here, like in a lot of places that I've been, they're dedicated professionals. They want to do things amazingly well.
Be with the kids.
And they want to be with the kids, and they've been put in a very difficult situation. And they're doing the best they can. I'm proud of them. So, you know, I've had some conversations with teachers at all the levels. Not all of them, but I will be reaching out because of some of the health insurance decisions we just made to a larger group of staff.
Any other questions?
I have a comment that, again, I'm very concerned about the messaging. I want to make sure that it's clear and it's well articulated to the students and to the parents, so everybody is on the same page as to what the expectations are for the classes to be complete and hopefully set the kids up for success to pass.
Yeah, I'll take care of that.
Can I just make one more comment or thought along that line? Is I think we have some teaching staff who, just by the nature of what they teach, they probably have a lot less to do with the virtual online learning. And the potential exists that they can be reallocated to really touch base and try and coach and get more engaged kids that maybe are not right now. So I'm off the top of my head, I'm thinking potentially some art teachers, music teachers, phys ed teachers, that they may have some time available that can be utilized to assist other teachers in reaching out to kids that
That's a good point.
aren't necessarily active.
Yeah, find out who has an impact on that child and get them to help.
Okay.
Good point, Matt.
Okay, any other comments, suggestions, questions? Okay. All right, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, I need a motion
I'll
to
make
adjourn.
the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Kelly and a second by Amy. Questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion will carry, we are adjourned.
See you guys. Leave your black folders here, I believe, right, Amy?
Yes.
Ray, let me know
I
when
got
you're
that all
disconnected
mixed in.
there.
Okay.